We would be honored if you would join us.
All right, and welcome back to our 9th episode of the Silvercast. I am joined by my co-host, Silver Conundrum, and this week we have a very special guest joining us who is not a fellow YouTube content creator, but rather a bullion dealer. We have Alex from Trade Zone 212 joining us. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Thank you very much for having me and calling me a very special guest.
Oh, absolutely. We are just very excited and honored to have you on. And we should note just from the beginning that there is no sort of advertising or payment going on or anything like that. Silver Conundrum is just a very satisfied customer, and we wanted to get you on to discuss bullions. And also, please note the disclaimer that Expat Stacker and Silver Conundrum are not financial advisors or experts. Investing is risky and comes with the chance that you could lose money. So talk to a licensed professional before making any decisions about what to do with your money. This video and all of the contents on our channels is for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. So, Silver Conundrum, maybe you can help to introduce your experience with Alex and everything by just going and telling your story of how you got to meet and everything else like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So it started off with a simple eBay purchase. I ordered a coin from him. I want to say it was the mask, the Venetian mask. Well, I bought it for the wife. Well, when I got it, the card was ripped. The authentication card was messed up. And so I messaged him. He made it right. And then he actually gave me a discount on my next purchase because of it, as a way of saying he apologizes. So he got me a new card, got me a little bit of a discount, and that's kind of where it went off from there. I started noticing that he had the best prices on eBay for the most part. His shipping was always spot on. At first, it was a little bit questionable when he first did the first shipping to me. And I explained to him what was going on, and he saw the video. I showed him the video as proof of, hey, this is damaged when it came in. Not that I did it, but from shipping. And ever since that video, he stepped his game up to the point of where I'm in awe about everything I buy from him. It is so well packaged. The prices are so spot on that he is literally about one of the only people that I buy from. Not the only one, but one of the only ones that I buy from nowadays when it comes to the collector's pieces. And with the premiums nowadays, I've actually been going around and defeating premiums by buying high-end coins in order to flip them at a later date. And ever since I've met Alex here, it has literally just been, I need this coin, I need that coin. What can you give me? And if I buy from him directly and I kind of leave out eBay, I get a little bit better deal. And to me, you guys know that the better deals means more money in the end in my pocket. And that's what I'm after. And he actually helps accommodate that. He helps me meet my goal of where I want to be at in stacking. And that's how Alex and I basically got together. And that's how we've been doing things ever since. I've never gotten anything from him. I've never been promoting him as far as him paying me to. When I say happy customer, I do mean happy customer. The man is amazing for what he does. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Well, that's great, man. So basically it started through an eBay purchase then, right?
That's right. It was an eBay purchase that had a little flaw and then flourished into what it is now.
That's awesome. And Alex, do you have your own website?
Well, the short answer is no. And that is because my goal was to establish an online reputation before I would get aggressively into marketing a product and being one of several available and established businesses. So eBay was the one platform that, for all of the challenges that one might encounter with selling and with the expenses that are associated with marketing products through eBay, it is the one place where you can establish a reputation, show a transaction track record, get positive feedback, and with great trepidation hope that it stays at 100%, which is why it's so important that somebody like Silver Conundrum gives me an opportunity to right a wrong and also show me how I can do something better rather than bluntly saying, oh, I was dissatisfied for this or that reason. So you put a lot of effort into maintaining that reputation, but once it's there, this is now a point that the business is reaching that we want to have a website, but also expand into other social media platforms where that reputation is established by word of mouth rather than by actual track record of transactions. So that was the game plan so far. Plus, we started off as a very tiny business, so eBay provided us with a platform that was scaled to the size of what we were able to do in the first place.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. So you're making progress toward the goal then. So why don't we just back up for a second and talk about, like, how did you end up getting interested in this whole idea of being a bullion dealer, and when did you start?
So have been collecting coins very casually for many years, since childhood, and over time it evolved into a little bit more of an investment perspective, and with that came greater and greater allocation to commonly known things like Morgan silver dollars and U.S. mint proof sets that had a little bit more value to them than others. Some rare coins from Europe, pre-Euro, European coins, and a few other categories. Everybody has their own preferences. And probably around 4 years ago, started thinking about actually turning it into a business, because primarily of being in the sales and business development and marketing background, and dealing with many sellers where I felt like if I were them, I could have done a better job in communicating, in negotiating, in educating perhaps me as a relatively novice type of a customer of theirs. And so those seeds were planted as a result of growing passion for numismatics in combination with having some experiences with certain sellers that I dealt with over the years. And then through confluence of events, which included getting laid off from a corporate job of many years, thanks to the pandemic, and just getting even more interested in the business side of it, decided to take a dive into the actual establishing a commercial enterprise at that point. So about a year and a half to 2 years ago, started doing a little bit of selling, but put everything into it approximately 1 year ago.
All right. Okay. So basically it's kind of always been a passion and kind of like a growing area of interest, and you thought more and more about it. And then in sort of a difficult circumstance, we're almost like forced into it, but it seems like it's working out pretty well. And you kind of actually answered some other questions that I had. I was going to say, is this your full-time career? And so it kind of sounds like maybe it is now. And I was going to also say, like, if you were in another industry before, then, what did you transition over from? And you said that you were in sales and marketing in a corporate setting. So before we continue on, since there's no website, do you have any social networking sites or platforms that you would recommend where people can come and get familiar with your business?
Well, happy for them to get familiar with my business, and the closest place right now is Instagram with the same handle, TradeZone212, as the eBay store. And there is a reference from Instagram into some of the eBay listings and the eBay store itself, again, primarily for showcasing the reputation and the track record of transactions, even more so than at the moment trying to sell anything, so to speak. But Instagram is a very attractive platform because in addition to being very casual and, I dare say, friendly and conversational in terms of how people interact, rather than being extremely structured, it is focused on the images of the items, and it really allows you for those efforts associated with taking quality photos and highlighting certain details of items and how they're packaged even, but of course the items themselves. It's really conducive to showcasing and really showing what you like about the item and yourself as a collector or somebody who appreciates these things, not just from a selling perspective. Whereas eBay is still that more structured. Here's the price, here are the terms, maybe you can make an offer. So those are the two places that I've really delved into so far. As a consumer of new information, as a buyer, as somebody who's learning every day that I try to absorb some new information, I feel like Facebook is most educational right now in seeing what people are into, the trends, the conversations that are happening that are a little bit more formal, a little bit more structured, a little bit more focused. And so that's where I consume more information now from the different groups that are into silver. But as far as wanting to showcase and expand and dipping the toes and seeing what people are interested in, that's more of the Instagram side of things right now for me.
Okay, great. And we will leave links to your Instagram and eBay and stuff like that in the description of the video. So for anybody who's watching and would like to check out Alex's product offerings, you can find those in the link of the description. Silver Conundrum, do you have any questions you want to jump in at this point?
Absolutely. So I have one question I've been wanting to ask you forever. How do you decide what to pick up? Like, do you just flip open a catalog, say, hey, I like this one, this one, this one, or do you just roll a dice? I know you said you were in Facebook and you consume the content of what people talk about. Does that play into your decision making?
Well, I try to get rid of my personal biases as much as possible and have been better at doing that lately. However, at least initially, a lot of it was based on what looked good to me, and it's not a completely wrong way to go if you're guessing right and the trend is for these coins to appreciate anyway, but it is a bit of a tunnel vision because you're omitting and excluding a lot of things that other people enjoy that you may not necessarily be a fan of. So while I, for example, still don't necessarily look at a lot of coins that follow Star Trek or Star Wars, or lately there's been a little bit of a search in Back to the Future coins, there's just not enough bandwidth to expand into everywhere. For example, I was really focused on coins that have to do with art styles, copies of paintings, and you can probably see from my inventory still a lot of coins are there that are devoted to that genre. But things like warriors, things like ancient leaders, or mythical figures, or to some extent religious attributes, all of those need to be considered in order to determine whether you want to go for something or not. So in addition to these stylistic or thematic type of characteristics, I think this is what everybody who, not just somebody who's looking to resell coins, but anybody who's looking to invest in coins, they should be looking at a few different signs. For example, is this coin something that is conducive to becoming part of a series, right? Is it something that is so unique and has certain features that have previously not been prevalent in other coins, such as integration of another material or some sort of a design element that is really new, that it could be said that even if it's not part of the series, this is the coin that broke ground, and therefore it's going to be desirable for that particular reason. So you start trying to get a little bit more objective. And of course, the most objective thing is to look at similar items and see where they have sold in the past and to see if they've appreciated in price in relatively recent times. And eBay is one of those great aggregators of data that is not really readily available anywhere else, that you can look at recent sale history of items, and auctions, you can always tell what they sold for when it's buy it now with the best offer. Sometimes you don't know, but you can see the general price trend of each coin. And if it's a relatively new coin and you can see that it appreciating quickly out of the gates, but it might still be available from the mint for wholesale purchase, you certainly want to rush and do that. But you also need to manage that along with the relationship with those coin producers. That's a little bit of a different aspect of things.
I got you. So I got another question for you then. Because you talked about the investment in the whole new coin setup and things. When would be the best time for anybody to actually get into numismatics if they want to flip them? So this way they can add weight to their stack.
So the kinds of coins that we started specializing in and acquire more and more and build the inventory with have an inherent premium in them, which is considerable over the intrinsic value, the content of silver, the spot price times X number of ounces. So a lot of these factors like digital printing, like just being struck in a way that requires a lot of expertise, limited quantities of those coins, and again, unique features, and all of that could add up to some sort of a value that is prevalent there that out of the gates. But then the coin could sort of stay there, or it could immediately begin to appreciate. And if it appreciates really quickly, like anything else, it could potentially take a dive from there. But in general, it is just a good idea to pay attention to everything that you're interested in. Sign up for newsletters, sign up for alerts from your favorite sellers as they're getting new inventory. Again, eBay is a great place to do that. Any social media, you can do it with keywords and tags, etc. eBay offers you slightly more structured ways of setting up searches that go back and are linked to specific sellers and specific item descriptions. So you want to always be aware when new things are coming out and keeping an eye on them. You want to see if pre-sales are happening and the delivery of those items isn't for another 2 to 3 months, and the seller's telling you that, but yet their customers are already jumping on it, and you can see that multiple coins have been pre-sold. All of those are indicators that these coins are going to be appreciating in price relatively quickly. Again, if you feel that there's a strong chance that this coin might become part of a series, sometimes mints announce that, and the news organizations, if I can call them, those are blogs, they let you know that this is the first in series of maybe 6 or 8 or maybe an indefinite number of coins that are coming up. If you get your hands on a coin that's first in series, that's always a good move early on. Those coins, I would say 9 out of 10 times appreciate, and sometimes appreciate ridiculously. But the earlier generally is safer than later in terms of securing the best possible price. Other than that, you just really have to play it by ear and get in tune with the genre, with the style, with the producers of those coins, and you sort of will develop a sixth sense if you spend enough time on it, which is not that difficult to do.
I got you. So it's kind of like when I bought that the 700th anniversary of Dante, and you're like, yeah, you might want to think about getting one or another one just because it could be the start of a set. Because you brought up to me that, hey, there's multiple books in this series, and turned out to be you were spot on. Because I saw on your Instagram post that you posted there's another coin coming out soon. Is that when is that supposed to be out?
So that's supposed to be out late April, and they are already decided that the mintage is going to be limited to 333 pieces, same as the first
Same
coin.
as the first one.
I was half right in the sense that, it's a trilogy, but I guess they figured that they were going to skip the purgatory part and jump straight to the heavens section of the poem. And so Paradiso will be one of 2 coins in the series, as far as I know. So far, they were pretty defined about that. They released a 1 kilo, so 2.2 pounds of silver version of that Inferno coin as well. I don't know the exact mintage of that, and I'm not going to be getting any of those. So probably going to be about 100 of them out, if I had to guess, that they're going to release. But now the fact that second coin, Paradisos, has been announced, what you're seeing immediately is that the price of the original coin is already starting to jump up. And we can talk about why that is happening right now. But for example, all auctions on eBay that was closed for $550 around so far for this coin, and there have been some buy it now sales in that range and a little bit higher. Now the auction that's going on right now as we're doing this conversation, that auction's already at 610. So about a 10% jump from the previous auction to this one since the news of the second coin was announced.
Oh, that's awesome. I can see more weight in my stack in the future right now as we talk. Hey, man, I'm serious. I flipped every coin I buy from you. I literally flip them for more weight. I mean, it's just my way of beating premiums. And you telling me, hey, I think this coin could be something better to look at than versus some of the ones that I was looking at originally, it's paid off. And I am in your debt for that.
Well, that always has been a goal. And it is a little bit more challenging to do with eBay because you need to build into your cost of goods sold the fees associated with selling there, and they do provide a great marketing platform, and I'm grateful to them because I wouldn't have been able to get to the point that I am at now. But it is also has been the mission from the very beginning to put items in people's hands at a price point that if they had to sell them today and potentially had to sell them on eBay today, taking those fees into the account, they could break even. if they had an emergency and needed to just flip this coin immediately without necessarily any profit, but also not losing money on it. So that is always what we're striving to do. Sometimes it's more challenging to do it than in other times, especially when the coins aren't performing as well. And so you're balancing, given some sort of a discount if somebody wants it, with also what your costs are. And those are ongoing dynamic types of decisions that you have to make. But in general, if a coin is performing healthily or is even kind of stable at this time, but we're looking for it to appreciate in the next 3-6 months, maybe a year at the most, the idea is always to get the item in your hands at a price point that you feel like, look at this, they're selling at what I bought it for, maybe 5 to 10% more. So I feel good about that purchase.
Well, Expat, back to you, brother. Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, since you've started the business relatively recently, have you attempted to study sort of coin bullion markets, like the history of these types of markets going back, to learn from history since you've started, or have you just kind of picked it up as you've gone along and trying to focus more on what's going on in this moment?
So outside of studying price trends and trying to build out a database of prices on my own, of correlations between where, let's say, a silver bar is versus a silver coin, that's relatively commonly or very commonly available, and looking at premiums on those and how they correlate with the underlying metals prices. I haven't done a lot of research as far as history of collecting or history of pouring metals. Maybe it's a good time to do so, and since you brought it up, and to look up some literature and see how this hobby / business / way of collecting has evolved over time. But I've been busy enough with the current state of affairs and trying to see where things are headed, from, again, with the kind of stacking pure silver collecting and gold to some extent, to what's going on in the coins today. I feel that this number of different coins and different styles and the intricate designs, it isn't that old, actually. I think that really it started exploding, including creation of Mint 21, which is a relatively new mint that kind of split off from its dependency on Mint of Poland, and several other newer mints that have emerged are a testament to that as well. These really artfully executed, expertly executed coins that carry a lot of the premium because of that artwork embedded into them. That's a relatively new phenomenon, probably has been around maybe for 10, maybe 15 years, but most of what I see that is attractive to me and is interesting and has those intricate details doesn't really go back to before, let's say, 2013, 2014. And so I've learned a lot of individual items from South Pacific Islands in Europe and Canada and the US that have some interesting features, but haven't really gone into history further than that as far as really trying to understand what's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Niue and Tokelau and some of these other kind of Micronesian islands who, their economies aren't very big, so it's been more recent that they have started minting these not intended for circulation coins. So I agree. I think that the history is not that long, actually, when it comes to those particular types of coins. And that kind of like leads me to the next question, which is, it seems like you're more focused on this sort of niche market. And does that help you to compete a little better, or like in just a different avenue than the larger, more well-known bullion dealers online, like AppMex, JM Bullion, and them, who are more, I guess, kind of focused on the commercial strikes, like the Eagles, and the more like quote stackable bullion, the generic bars and things like that? They seem to be a little bit less into the, art silver or the really highly numismatic coins. So am I getting that sense right, where you're kind of in sort of a niche market, and so therefore you're not competing directly against the quote unquote big boys?
Well, it's humbling to be mentioned in the same sentence as these folks because, of course, These are huge, established, well-known, highly reputable businesses who are, I don't want to diminish the quality of what they do and by saying they're the Walmart of coins, but their goal is really highest possible volume with commensurate lower margins because their businesses, of course, carry a lot of overhead and they are very well funded. They've been around for a long time, and we're probably talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in inventory in some cases. And the turnover that's happening there is, of course, happening through a very well-established website. And when your name has the word exchange in it, that's that alone, of course, as an AppMex, that's something that is to be revered. So it does help to be focused, but also it is kind of out of necessity, right? When you're self-funded and when you formed a business and took all the steps of incorporating and setting up business accounts and purchasing inventory and protecting the business in various ways, that of course is something that requires a lot of resources in itself. So luckily, the concentration in the area, like you call that niche, that we had the most interest in, coincided with our personal interests, coincided with where we could establish relationships with producers of the coins and commit to them to a certain purchase volume every year that was within our limits. And that sort of pushed us into this groove of where we are right now. Eventually, of course, it'd be interesting to expand into other areas, but in order to effectively sell things like American Silver Eagles or anything else that's standard bullion type of coins issued by the U.S. Mint or Royal Canadian Mint or anywhere else really, those are very low margin, require huge outlay of capital to purchase those. A lot of them get certified in great bulk with NGC or PCGS, and that is also a game that needs to be very well established, a relationship that needs to be established with those grading agencies. So that's a whole other level of operating. And of course, I'm sure they have a lot of employees and warehouses, et cetera. So here, the concentration on these Niue, Cook Islands, Cameroon, Ghana coins is in part out of necessity, but is also where, frankly, the most passion is. And I see right now the most beautiful items being made and the opportunity to earn, not just by me, but more importantly, by the customers, by the buyers of those coins. And that goes back to the previous point we discussed. That's where I feel the greatest opportunity is for everyone.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I have to say, just, we've never talked before, but listening to you, I really can sense your passion for this, and you're following your own interests, and you're also very focused on making sure that the customers are satisfied. And so therefore, I do think that your business is going to continue to flourish and grow and thrive. So that's a great thing. Do you have any other maybe people around in your network or your area who are actually brick and mortar, like coin shops? Or because I'm kind of interested and curious in the dynamic between internet dealers like yourself and brick and mortars. Like, how do those two types of businesses affect one another? Because certain industries like bookstores, for example, or we've seen what happened with movies and TV shows, like with Blockbuster and Netflix and those types of things. So in certain types of products or services, it matters a lot more. But with physical bullion, I kind of feel that the brick and mortar stores have a better chance of survival because it's a physical asset that people want to look at, and if they need to sell it, then they'll do it at a physical location somehow. So do you have any sense of how the online or internet dealers have affected the physical coin shops or stores?
Well, a lot of I think not the hugest ones, of course. Again, if we're talking about AppMex and dealers of that stature, but there are many jewelry stores, for example, well-established jewelry stores that will also be purveyors of graded, well-known coins, be it gold or silver, highly recognizable names. You know, it could be buffalo heads. It could be it could be American silver eagles. It could be anything really that is well established and people can recognize just visually, but also is in a certified slab, and then also is sold to you by your neighborhood jeweler that you go buy in watch store and a perhaps a bracelet from. So this is something that perhaps one way of, this is on a very local level, but this is where people can feel comfortable. One of those examples where people can feel comfortable and go and purchase something that they actually want to physically hold and examine. Right. The next best thing, probably from a buyer's perspective, but also doesn't require them to go anywhere, and that's been how commerce has been going more and more anyway, is to buy from a very well-established online source. Now, if you could go buy a lot of these things on Amazon too, they generally carry a higher premium there, but you also get tremendous buyer protections, free returns with no questions asked, no packaging required. So that's also more and more of a way to go. But then you have, for example, one of my favorite sellers on eBay is Texas Gold and Silver. Offer free shipping, free returns, have a ton of auctions, and many of them in coins that I'm interested in collecting personally, as well as perhaps reselling later. I have a dual relationship with them in the sense that I'm always looking to see to them where I can buy, for example, a Silver Eagle. I've been looking at a lot of the 2020 emergency issue, San Francisco and Philadelphia Silver Eagles and their auctions, for example. And they're one of those places where I can buy it easily and pay a best possible price of today for that item. I have never been to their store in Austin, Texas, I believe they are, or somewhere around there. But I have certainly spoken with them on the phone when I needed to. And I've also struck deals with them when I see they have something that hasn't really been selling that well, and it fits within the categories that I'm specializing in, and I can call or email them or message them through eBay and say, hey, would you accept this price if I bought 5 or 10 of these coins from you? Because I feel like they're underappreciated right now, but they will have their day in the future. So they're actually helping me diversify my inventory and add to my collection. And I don't necessarily seek advice from them in the sense that I don't know what I can ask them really besides for the best price on the things that they have. They don't really have, let's say, publications or marketing necessarily that they provide me with. So I feel like it would have to constantly be ad hoc and I'd be bothering them and asking them questions. So I would rather focus on when something specific comes up, I will approach them. And if it's advantageous to them to just clear that space on their shelf and make room for another item that they're ready to go with, then they will help me out that way. Otherwise, I don't think that they have any awareness of my existence. At that point, I'm not in their way, and they certainly are way too big for me to think that I'm any sort of a competitor to them.
Right, understood.
Makes
and
you
so
flying under the radar.
for now, yeah. But like I said, I think that your business is going to grow and you will elevate to, another level and perhaps, be equal or, on a different playing field with them sooner than later. But I'm curious. So with these types of like highly numismatic coins and things like that, I'm guessing that your sort of order volume is a lot smaller than if you were going with the commercial strike of the Canadian Maple Leaf, the American Silver Eagle, and those types of government-backed, sovereign coins. Since you're doing the more numismatic coins, your processing order volume is probably smaller. So do you process orders and get them out to people like on a day-to-day basis or week to week, or how does that work for your business?
So you brought up an interesting point. So thankfully, the producers of coins are very fair in how they allocate orders of these highly numismatic and also limited quantity coins. So as certificates of authenticity will state, and they say this up to number, although as Silver Conundrum mentioned one time, up to doesn't mean anything. It means it's that number. They're producing 500 or 750 or 1,000 or 333 of a certain coin. And every seller, every professional seller makes a request. And if the coins are over allocated, the mint has to make a decision as to how they're going to distribute that limited quantity. So already it is a different scale and a different type of request for these coins than something that is minted in the quantity of even 1,500 or 50,000 or unlimited until further notice. So therefore, they will allocate based on the previous purchases of those dealers. If they're purchasing every coin in a series, for example, if they are not necessarily cherry picking, but are helping them clear their inventory of produced but not yet sold coins. And I'm always having open conversations with them about that, because I feel like certain coins just haven't had their day yet. And for that reason, they have been overlooked by certain other dealers. So that's also part of the how I built a positive relationship in dealing with a lot of these producers. But the mint ultimately will allocate based on their own decisions, which are very fair and objective, how many of each coin they will allow each person to hold and resell when they're oversubscribed. So that is always a little bit of a battle. You have to make a request by a certain deadline and then hope for the best based on their criteria, and they're relatively transparent about it. I certainly have had no issue to think that they've favored someone over me, but I also understand that if I am all of a sudden interested in a third coin in series, and it's a highly popular coin, and I see that this series is appreciated greatly, and I kind of missed the boat on the first two, and I'm all of a sudden saying, hey, give me 10% of the run on the third one, they will probably say no to me, because they will go first to the dealers. At least they will give them the right of first refusal to those that have purchased for them the first two coins. So that is also part of this dynamic decision-making process as to what you want to go after as a seller and how you want to maintain your relationship with the mint. And so all of that is kind of the decision-making process around how you build the inventory.
Very interesting. I actually did not know that at all. So have you ever seen a coin or a series that has had a lag in its appeal to the market or the consumers, or its popularity hasn't exploded quite right out of the gate, and it took some time for it to become popular amongst people? Because I feel like a lot of the numismatic series of coins, they're people know they're coming, and as soon as they're available, they jump on them and they're gone in like a matter of hours or a matter of days. I mean, I was shopping on LPM's website and I was talking to people in other countries. We're both looking at the same thing, and the website's like crashing for them and not crashing for other people because there's so much traffic, So is there some coins or some series that have sort of lagged in popularity that suddenly exploded that you've seen?
I'll give you a couple of examples, a couple of interesting ones. One that comes to mind is the Trapped series that started back in 2019. It's a 1 ounce Cook Islands coin, which basically sort of looks like somebody's pushing through a screen or a gauze pad, and their face imprint is coming at you. It's an antique coin. It's kind of mystique looking, spooky looking a little bit. And when they initially came out, you could have easily purchased it for $100, $110. And for a while, in part because there were some going through auctions for around that price, but in part because people just didn't jump on it for whatever reason. That coin stayed at around that price for quite a while, for months. And again, when we're talking about something that hasn't appreciated, we're never talking about 10 years or 5 years. We really are, these timelines are quite condensed. So that's why part of this market is so much fun, is that you can actually see your collection grow in value pretty quickly. And it's more likely than not that most of the items in it are going to appreciate relatively quickly. as other things that we discussed already, like they become first in series, or the series becomes more popular, or the theme is gaining more popularity, or just more people's eyes are on these types of coins, and they're still limited to 500 apiece. And even though more of them are being produced, you're still there's more and more demand for them. So it's really fun to watch this because you don't need that much time to see what's happened. And so that coin stayed around low 100s for a while, and now it's $500-$600 to get your hands on that coin, at least of the asking prices. You might be able to get it in the 400s maybe, and the MS70, I've only seen the PCGS graded ones. There are probably some NGC as well. Those are going for over 500, probably closer to 600. The ones that are non-graded are 400 to 500 and more, and that happened around the time that the second coin in the series came out, which has the hand imprints. But also, I think independently of that, for whatever reason, that coin just had its day and started catching a lot of attention, and the prices just shot through the roof. It certainly, I think, in part is at least due to the fact that it became a series. Now you have a third coin for 2021 called Trap Attack, which you have sort of this vampire face approaching, I think, what looks a lot like the original face of the 2019 coin. And I think those will probably do better than the hands because you have faces. And those coins are already on pre-sales, are selling for around $180, $200 from what I've seen so far. And those coins will be available, I believe, in middle of April. So that's an example of a coin that was a little bit of a sleeper for whatever reason. Maybe it was maybe ahead of its time a little bit, and people just needed to get used to it. But that's a great example of a coin that appreciated very quickly and went through the roof. And another example from a different world, I think, is what's happened with anything that's, or most of things that are 2020 from the U.S. Mint. Clad proof sets, silver proof sets, graded pennies, those extra West Point pennies, and West Point nickels to a lesser extent so far. Pennies are really where a lot of attention is. And that's happened because of limited quantities, because of the pandemic, because of emergency issued dollars. That had its own little interesting run. And actually, that is happening right now. You could still get those coins at good prices. I'm talking about the individual extra pennies that are graded 69 and 70. And those there's a lot of volatility around them. You can buy the same thing for $15 or $25 today, depending on time of day and which seller it is and whether it's an auction or buy it now, et cetera. But that's all. Those are all signs of these coins are settling in price and then probably going to be appreciating much further than they are right now, I would guess. So those are a couple of examples from what I've seen that wasn't really, and the pennies, actually, they were a lot less expensive. They were $10, $12 just several weeks ago, and now the same things are selling in the 20s and the 30s. So in some cases, price double and tripled for the same item out of sheer demand for them. So those are the kinds of things that could be happening in this crazy fun world of numismatics.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I have seen those trapped coins too, by the way. They are pretty spooky looking. So I wanted to, you sort of answered this next question already, but I was kind of curious about what do premiums tend to look like for you as a dealer. So you already mentioned that you might not even be able to get your hands on something if it's a series, for example, and you didn't get in on the first in series. Depending on how limited the quantity, the mintage is. But I mean, what do the premiums look like you dealing directly with the mint, or in some cases when you deal with the other bullion dealers? You mentioned Texas Precious Metals. So how do you sort of, especially in this climate right now that we're in, how do you navigate that as the middleman? What does it look like for you?
So firstly, let me put it to you this way. The idea, and I think any successful business in this world should really have that as their goal. The idea is that bulk of the benefit of the premium, and the premium that's going to go above and beyond any, let's say, short-term to medium-term potential increases in prices of the underlying metal, of the silver or gold, whatever it's made of, and any of the other elements embedded into it. The idea is that most of that premium is realized by the end buyer, by the collector, by the person that's buying one or two copies of something for the purpose of building their collection, but also knowing that they're actually investing in it. Because what you're trying to do really is to, yes, as a seller, you want a loyal following, but you want people to feel good about the acquisitions that they're making. And therefore, the margin will inherently be lower for the dealer unless they sit on those coins for a very long time. And this, by very long time, again, I mean 3 to 6 months, which when you're a business and you're holding inventory that long, when it can move quicker, that is a very long time. But if you can be patient and if you have the funds to do it, the best idea would be for me to buy the coins and then wait 6 to 12 months before I even start selling them. Because by 12 months from now, we will really see you're not going to take a loss on it, let's say, but especially when we're talking about wholesale prices. And never really have seen anybody taking a loss on retail either. But if you are going to wait out that period when the coin's establishing itself, establishing its own path in terms of price growth, getting the news of whether it's going to be part of a series, establishing its own following, up until that time, the margins are relatively narrow for the dealer, because otherwise you're not being competitive, and otherwise you're just not doing the best for your customers, because a lot of these coins are quite expensive and this is not a cheap hobby to have. That said, these coins are not inexpensive wholesale either. It would be faulty to assume that a dealer is charging you 50 to 100% premium over their wholesale price. It would be faulty to assume that. And I've been asked that question quite a bit of time. And a lot of times when you are given an offer by a buyer, they will often offer you a price that is considerably lower than the wholesale price. Now, that is forgivable because they just don't know, and the assumption is probably that everybody is marking up something 100%. But the truth of it is that all of the competitive dealers, at least in the beginning, at least until the coin is taken off and it just doesn't make sense to market it at that original price, you want to raise the prices to be in tune with market, even though you can still be very competitive, the price point is going to be higher now. The margins are there to sustain the business, but they're also not exorbitant so that you are trying to maximize your gain from each particular transaction that you do.
So I guess my last question for you is sort of, and again, I think you've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but what exactly does your sort of supply chain look like? So it sounds like you're dealing directly with certain mints, some of them maybe overseas. And then also it sounds like in some certain cases when you think it would be profitable, you're also dealing with other distributors. So do you mainly deal directly with certain mints, or what does that sort of look like for your inventory?
Yeah, so the mints I deal directly with, they're located in Poland and Germany, which is where the greatest concentration of talent in producing these coins is, we would argue, and that is why they're so popular, and they have relationships with the banks of the countries which actually denominate these coins. So that's one aspect of the relationships. That's the same as any other dealer would be. But as I mentioned, I also work with a lot of wholesalers and larger retailers, because if my audience are people who are interested in 1 or 2 copies, and at the moment they haven't discovered that coin, or it's not of interest to them, or it's not in their budget right now, I would like to be able to offer them that 1 copy. But in order for me to give it to them at a great price, I need to procure it also at some sort of reasonable price point as a seller, as a business. And so in that case, this is where I would actively negotiate with the larger businesses, asking them what is on your plate at the moment that maybe isn't selling as well, and you've had your run with it and you're looking to be a little bit more flexible. But I understand that your flexibility is only predicated on me asking you for 10 or 20 examples of this coin. And therefore, we might strike something out. And again, we're not talking about huge margins at that point unless you make that lucky guess and the coin begins to appreciate a few weeks after you've procured it, or a few months after that. So those are some of the dynamics of who I work with. Plus, frankly, as a collector, as somebody who is always on the lookout for what's out there for sale, you can always acquire coins one at a time of the same type. And you can build your inventory over a few weeks or months that way, buying them just one at a time. But there, of course, you have to factor in individual shipping charges and sales tax and all these other things if you have to pay them as a retail customer. So it's nothing really that unique or ingenious, but it's more of a combination of things that yield the best results.
All right, understood. And now this might be the most difficult question of the interview so far. So I have seen a lot of interesting coins, numismatic coins. In particular, there's a channel on YouTube that I really like called Silver Gold Saver. He always has very interesting pieces. Some of them are even like statues and things like this. I saw the other day on his channel a coin which is actually like a trap, like a bear trap, and it holds a gold 2 pesos inside of it. I guess it's a replica of a piece of art that was made that sold for a really high, crazy amount of money. Have you seen that kind of that 2 pesos trap coin?
I vaguely recall seeing something like this. Can't say that they have the exact image of it. The only thing that I can relate that to also is another coin that I saw that is made sort of like a belt buckle that contains a coin that similar what you're describing, that sort of an item that has some utility or some display quality to them contains a coin in it. But no, I'm not. I may have seen it once, but I can't say that I'm very familiar with it.
Right. Okay. So there's other coins that have like a compass inside of it or something like this, right? So basically, I've seen all of these really interesting designs. Some of them are just really mind-blowing. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what is one of the coolest or most intriguing coins that you've come across in your time as a dealer? So that's why I say it's one of the most hardest questions, because I'm sure you've seen a lot.
Well, this is exactly that. It is a lot. And sometimes you are seeing coins that have some sort of a color application to them that's really unique, that's iridescent, that's interest, that you're saying to yourself, how did they really do that? And of course, they have the technology to do that, so they were able to. But I think what's most interesting to me and remains to this day, sure, complexities, compass or some sort of another moving part, or you mentioned a bear trap, I mentioned a belt buckle. All of those are unique cases, but I like coins that are, I don't even know exactly why always they can be called coins. They technically, I guess anything can be called coins if it's structured properly, but coins that are of unusual shape. And I'm not just speaking of something being square or shaped like a maple leaf. I'm talking about something that is truly three-dimensional. And I'm always fascinated by items like that. And there are, again, many examples of that, but I can't really pick one over another. Perhaps if one stands out to me a little bit, it's also because of the shiny proof edges of that, or not edges, but actually reverse and obverse, the edges, the bulk of the coin. But it's the cylindrically shaped Fortuna coin from 2013, 2014, new way that comes in 2 sizes, a 25 and a 50-gram coin. That is just absolutely breathtaking to me by the way it was made and by the fact that when you hold it, you feel like you're holding a solid chunk of silver, but on the outside of it, it's just a beautifully executed work of art. And similar coins to that, also from New Way, sometimes from Cameroon, are 70 Wonders of the World. It's a crystal-adorned, sphere-shaped coin, a solid 7-ounce coin that I was always fascinated by. It's not because I still have a few available for sale. It's just literally something that I was fascinated by and drove my interest in these coins to the degree that I have it in part. It is anything that has to do with pyramids. There is one that is commemorative to the Louvre, and one that is commemorative to the Great Pyramids of Giza. So this is another example of something that stands out to me. So I'm more into unusual shapes that are called coins somehow than anything else. But I certainly appreciate anything that's unique, and whether that's manifested in me liking the images when I'm looking at it on Facebook or Instagram, or putting it on my wish list. that's always something that I'm looking at. So anything unusual, any unusual feature, but in particular unusual shapes is of, what's been of greatest interest to me.
Right. Awesome. Very cool. Silver Conundrum, did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
No, brother, that's pretty much everything that I had to ask. And you hit on all the other stuff I was going to do. So pretty well rounded to me.
All right, cool. Okay, well, Alex, really, really interesting discussion and really great to have your perspective. And we really appreciate you spending the time to discuss this with us and share all of your knowledge. And we hope that everybody who has enjoyed listening to this episode will go ahead and go on over to your eBay page, your Instagram, and just, take a look at what you've got and interact with you. And yeah, is there anything else that you would like to say, Alex?
Just to express my appreciation for you guys having me, and also to thank officially Silver Conundrum for all the things that he'd mentioned in the beginning of how we got together, and how he's helped me learn and correct my error, and also expand into social media and just grow my business in ways that I wouldn't have thought of if not for his indications of what he's interested in, and his collecting styles and his stacking. And so it's been also a great friendship in addition to purely a commercial side of our relationship. And I very appreciate meeting you as well, Luke. I hope that we can stay in touch and help each other out in any way that we can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For sure. We definitely will. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you all in the next episode. We're going to have another part with Alex coming up next week, so make sure you tune in and do not miss that. We'll catch you all in the next one.